He held her like he had never held my mother. I could see it in his hands, the way they lingered on her waist. I could see it in his mouth, the way he kissed her like he was starving for her. And the worst part was, I knew that woman. She was not a stranger. She was part of my world too. Hello everyone. I want to take a moment to appreciate all of you who have subscribed to this channel. Thank you for riding with me through these intense, twisted stories that cut deep into the human soul. To all my new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, thank you for clicking on this video. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button, because that simple click fuels this channel and energizes me to keep telling these gripping stories. Please, remember to drop your thoughts in the comments right after this hook. I read all of them, and your support means everything to me. Now, let me take you back to the night that shattered my family. My name is Emily Carter. I am 24 years old. I grew up in the quiet suburbs of Franklin, Tennessee, the kind of place where people smiled too long and waved from the other side of the street like they cared. From the outside, our family was a postcard. My father, Greg Carter, owned one of the most respected dental practices in town. My mother, Susan Carter, was a homemaker and a passionate volunteer for local charities. And me? I was the only child, the golden girl, home from college for the summer before my final semester at Vanderbilt. Everything felt familiar. Safe. Predictable. Until that night. It was late. I had gone out with my best friend, Kayla, to grab ice cream. On our way back, I remembered I had left my wallet in Dad's car earlier. I knew he had gone to meet a client for dinner. He often did that. Or so I thought. His car was parked behind the Candlelight Inn, a quiet hotel on the edge of town. I told Kayla to wait while I ran up to the car. But the car was locked. The hotel lobby was silent, just the hum of the vending machines. Something told me to walk further in. I do not know what I expected, but it was not what I saw. Through a slightly cracked door, I saw my father, shirt half unbuttoned, lips on someone else's mouth, hands tangled in her long, dark hair. Her laugh was low and breathy. And that voice was unmistakable. It was Trisha Montgomery. A woman I had grown up knowing. She was the mother of a girl I went to high school with. Trisha was glamorous in a loud, flashy way. Always with perfect nails, always in heels, always turning heads at PTA meetings. But this was a violation I had never prepared for. I stepped back, my body trembling, bile rising in my throat. I ran. I did not even explain to Kayla. I told her I felt sick. I went home and locked myself in my room, and cried until I could not feel my face anymore. That night, I saw my father in a way I had never seen him before. Not as my protector. Not as the man who used to carry me on his back. But as a liar. As someone who had betrayed the one woman who had given him everything. For 2 days, I said nothing. I watched him come home, kiss my mother on the cheek, ask what was for dinner. I watched her serve him food, laugh at his jokes. And I hated him for how easily he could lie. I hated myself for letting it eat me alive in silence. I kept looking at my mother differently. Noticing the tiny wrinkles by her eyes. The way her hands moved from one task to another, never pausing, never asking for help. She deserved to know. She deserved better. But I was scared. Not of her reaction, but of the destruction it would cause. Because once I opened my mouth, there would be no going back. It happened 3 days later. We were sitting in the living room after dinner. Dad was in his recliner watching the news. Mom was folding laundry. I was scrolling through my phone, but not really reading anything. The words just spilled out of me. Mom. I need to tell you something about Dad. Her hands froze mid-fold. She did not say a word, just turned her head toward me. Her eyes locked with mine. Calm. Too calm. And then I said it. I saw him. With Trisha Montgomery. At the Candlelight Inn. There was a silence that felt like the entire house inhaled. Dad sat up straight. "What the hell are you talking about?" I ignored him. I was speaking to my mother. Only her. Because this was her war. This was her wound. I described it all. The car. The room. The kiss. Her voice. My father jumped in, called me crazy, said I was making things up, that Trisha was just a friend from work whose son he was mentoring. He said I misunderstood. That I was tired. Maybe even drunk. But I knew what I saw. And so did my mother. She stood up. Slowly. Her face unreadable. Then she turned and walked out of the room without a word. That night, no one slept. The air in the house was thick with anger, guilt, fear. My father banged on her locked bedroom door, shouting that she was overreacting. I stayed in my room, curled up in bed, phone off, heart heavy. I had done it. I had told her. And now everything was falling apart. But something inside me also felt lighter. Because the truth, as painful as it was, had been set free. And that truth would now have to face its consequences. The morning after I shattered the lie that held our family together, the house felt like a stage after the curtain dropped, messy, hollow, stripped of its illusions. The sunlight pouring through the kitchen window mocked the weight sitting on my chest. My mother did not come downstairs that morning. And for the first time in my life, my father made his own coffee. He did not speak to me. He looked through me. As if I had turned from daughter to enemy overnight. But I did not regret it. Because the woman upstairs had spent over 25 years raising a family, sacrificing dreams, building a life around a man who, as it turned out, had been feeding her lies while laying in another woman's arms. I stayed home that day. I did not go out, not even to breathe fresh air. My phone vibrated non-stop, texts from Kayla, missed calls from Dad's office manager, even Trisha's daughter, Madison, who somehow had heard there was trouble in our house. Gossip traveled fast in our town, and drama always arrived with a full parade. By evening, my mother came down. She wore a light gray dress and her wedding ring still glinted on her finger, but something in her was different. Her eyes were colder. Sharper. More calculating. She moved past my father without a word and sat at the dinner table. "I made reservations at the club for this Friday," she said calmly, placing a cloth napkin on her lap. "We will still attend. I have already chosen my dress." My father's jaw tensed. He looked at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "You want to go out in public? After what she said?" He nodded toward me like I was vermin. My mother lifted her gaze and said something I would never forget. "I will not hand this town a scandal. Not until I am ready." There it was, her war strategy. Not rage. Not violence. But silence. Controlled. Elegant. Lethal. Over the next few days, she operated like nothing happened. She still watered her garden. Still dropped off casseroles at the local shelter. Still attended her weekly book club. But behind that calm mask, I could feel the tectonic plates shifting. My father tried to resume his routine, but it was clear that the power dynamic had changed. He no longer came home whistling. He no longer barked orders at the dinner table. He waited, for a punishment that had not yet come. And I watched my mother. Closely. Studying her strength, her grace, her restraint. I realized how much she had endured silently over the years. The small things, the way he spoke over her in conversations, the way he dismissed her opinions, the way he always kept separate passwords on his phone. I began to see the cracks that had always been there, but I had never known how to name them. One afternoon, I walked into her bedroom without knocking. She was sitting by the vanity, removing her earrings. "I am sorry," I said, meaning every syllable. "For the pain." She looked at me through the mirror. "Do not be. You did not cause it. You exposed it." She stood and walked to the closet. From the back, she pulled out a dark blue garment bag I had never seen before. I bought this dress 5 years ago. For our 25th anniversary. I thought we would go to Paris. She smiled faintly. Instead, I will wear it Friday. To sit across from him. And remind everyone who I am. That evening, I cried alone in my room. Not for myself, but for her, for every woman who has to swallow betrayal while keeping her head high in public. For every wife who becomes invisible just to keep a man whole. Friday night arrived. The country club glistened with chandeliers and artificial laughter. People dressed in polished perfection, sipping wine and exchanging hollow compliments. We arrived in silence. My mother looked breathtaking in that navy blue dress, cinched at the waist, falling just above her heels. Her makeup was flawless. My father wore his usual tailored suit, but his confidence had cracks. People watched us. Of course, they did. Word had spread. And then, like a fox in daylight, Tricia Montgomery entered. She wore red. Red like defiance. Red like guilt. Red like she wanted to be seen. She approached our table slowly, like she was floating on air, smiling that artificial, rehearsed smile. "Greg," she said, her voice like warm syrup. "Susan. Emily. Lovely to see you all." My mother did not blink. She did not flinch. She stood. Looked Tricia straight in the eyes. And then she smiled, not kindly, not warmly. A cold, elegant smile that carried centuries of womanly wrath. "It is brave of you to show your face here, Tricia. But then again, cheap lace never feared fire." Gasps echoed across the room. My father froze. Tricia's lips parted, but no words came. She turned and vanished into the crowd. And just like that, my mother sat back down. Picked up her glass of wine. Sipped it. And looked straight ahead like nothing had happened. After that night, something inside my father cracked. He began to follow my mother around the house like a shadow. Bringing her flowers. Cooking breakfast. Complimenting her hair. But it was too late. She had already made her decision. And I could see it in her eyes. But she would not make it public. Not yet. One evening, I found her on the back porch staring at the sunset. "You still love him?" I asked quietly. She sipped her tea. "I loved the man I thought he was. That man no longer exists. What happens now?" She placed her cup down and turned to me. "I will not be the broken woman people whisper about. I will leave on my own terms, with my own grace, when I am ready. And he will watch every moment of it." But just when we thought we had seen it all, just when I believed the worst was over, a letter arrived. A plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was a photograph. It showed my father and Tricia. But it was not from this year. It was dated 23 years ago, the year before I was born. On the back, scribbled in faded ink, were the words. "She was not the first." The moment I turned that photo over and read those 5 haunting words, "She was not the first," something inside me collapsed. I stared at the faded date. May 2001. My parents had married in 1997. I was born in July of 2002. This picture, this proof, was not a snapshot of a midlife affair. It was a piece of a much larger betrayal. My father had been cheating long before I ever existed. I brought the envelope to my mother. Her hands trembled as she took it from me, but her eyes remained sharp. She studied the photo for a long time, longer than I could bear. Then she closed the flap of the envelope, laid it on the counter, and simply said, "I knew." I blinked. "You knew?" She nodded, softly, like it was a truth she had been carrying inside her bones for decades. Not about Tricia specifically. But I knew there were others, early on. Before you. Before the house. Before the white picket fence. But I chose to look away. Because I loved him. Because I thought it would stop. Because I thought if I just gave more, sacrificed more, it would be enough. Her voice did not crack. Mine did. You stayed, knowing? Yes. Because I wanted you to grow up in a whole home. Because I thought the pain was mine to carry, not yours. She reached out and touched my face. Her fingers were cold but steady. I was wrong. Everything inside me shattered. My memories twisted themselves into strange shapes. I saw every family vacation, every Christmas morning, every birthday cake, tainted now with hidden lies. I thought back to the times he had smiled at my mother while texting on his phone. The work trips that extended into weekends. The arguments behind closed doors that ended with silence and red eyes. My father had not just betrayed my mother. He had betrayed me. He had made me believe in a lie so well told, I had built my entire idea of love and trust around it. Later that evening, I found my father sitting on the back porch, nursing a glass of whiskey. He looked older. Defeated. But I was past pity. You knew that photo would come, I said without greeting. He exhaled. Your mother told you? No. I figured it out. He turned his head slowly. You think I am a monster? No, I replied. Monsters hide. You were out in the open. You were worse. He stood and stepped toward me. Emily. I made mistakes, but I always loved you. I stepped back. You do not get to say that. Not anymore. Love is not something you say while lying through your teeth and crawling between other women's sheets. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. Every time you smiled in our family photos, every time you hugged Mom after coming home from someone else's bed, every time you let me believe we were safe. I walked away before he could answer. I was tired of listening to his rehearsed guilt. In the days that followed, my mother changed everything. She met with a lawyer. She closed the joint bank accounts. She took her name off the dental practice's official records. She began packing her things, quietly, gracefully, but with a certainty that terrified even my father. Then, one morning, she called for me. I found her in the living room, suitcase by her side. I am leaving, she said, calm as ever. I nodded. Where will you go? I have cousins in Asheville. I will stay there a while. Start fresh. I hugged her like I never had before. And then, before she walked out the door, she said something I would never forget. You are stronger than me, Emily. You spoke when I stayed silent. Never forget that. And just like that, she was gone. What came next was chaos. My father fell into a spiral. He lost clients. People began canceling their appointments. Whispers turned into stares. Rumors clung to our name like mud. I tried to stay away from it all. But he kept trying to pull me back in. He called. Texted. Showed up at my campus one afternoon, unannounced. I just want to fix things, he pleaded, his eyes bloodshot. There is nothing left to fix, I said. You did not break a vase, Dad. You broke people. But betrayal has layers. And the deepest one was still buried. One afternoon, I received a message from a woman named Kendra Lewis. She said she had seen my story circling on local Facebook pages. I think I might be your sister, she wrote. I stared at the screen for what felt like an hour. We met 2 weeks later. She looked just like me. The same cheekbones. The same dimple in the left cheek. The same chin as our father. She told me her mother had an affair with Greg Carter back in 2000. He had promised to leave his wife. He never did. Her mother raised her alone. A DNA test later confirmed it. We shared 50% of our DNA. I had a sister. And my mother had unknowingly raised me beside the daughter of her husband's affair. I confronted him one last time. How many secrets are there, Dad? He could not answer. Because for men like him, betrayal is not a mistake, it is a pattern. One they paint over with apologies, only to repeat when no one is watching. It has been a year now. My mother has built a quiet, beautiful life in Asheville. She volunteers again. She adopted a dog. She walks along trails and drinks wine with women who have also survived men like my father. I see her every month. Kendra and I have grown closer. We speak weekly. Sometimes we cry over how different our lives were. Sometimes we laugh. Mostly, we just try to heal. As for me, I have learned to see betrayal not just as destruction, but as revelation. It tore our family apart, yes. But it also stripped away the lies and showed us who we really were. I am not my father's legacy. I am my mother's daughter. And that is more than enough.